This is Baal Kadmon, and I want to thank you for watching and listening to this podcast. In today's podcast, I'm going to be announcing the pre-release of my book, Jesus Magick. Its official release will be sometime in October, probably before October 15th, but you can actually purchase it now and you will get it the moment it is released. Today, I'm going to present you with Chapter 4 of the book in audio. I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 4. Magic in the Bible. In almost all magical systems, there is a presupposition that the world around us is inhabited by gods, goddesses, angels, demons, spirits of the dead, as well as other miscellaneous spirits. I will not get into the various different classes of spirits. I cover those in my other books. You can find them on Amazon.com. More often than not, these spirits have the ability to either harm us or bestow upon us good fortune. Sometimes they would do this all on their own, and other times people would employ them via various magical systems and practices. The key word here is various. Magical systems are not homogeneous, nor is the definition of magic necessarily shared amongst the different peoples living around and near the Mediterranean. There are, of course, commonalities. It is important to note that oftentimes magic is practiced outside of an established religious practice. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam as religions forbid magic and astrology, at least on the surface. However, when you dig a bit deeper, you find magical texts and practices that are established outside the orthodox religious practice. Everyone knows that magic is there and that it is real, but it is hush-hush. For some, magic is downright diabolical, and for others, it is a sacred practice that only very well qualified and holy people can participate in. A perfect example is Judaism. Judaism forbids magic and astrology, yet within its mystical and magical texts, written by devout Jews, I might add, allows for it, but under certain guidelines which are often quite strict. Clearly, the New Testament story of the birth of Jesus was meant to be interpreted as a magical astrological event. I say this because of the existence of the star that foretold his birth. It was forbidden for Jews to read signs in the stars, yet the New Testament views this celestial event as a sacred one. Either the writers of the New Testament were okay with magic and didn't think this was suspicious, or the story was meant to be magical and that only a certain few would understand it. Another interpretation could be that the writers of the Gospels were not very knowledgeable of Jewish practices and thus were not cognizant of Jewish sensitivities against astrology and magic. That is certainly something to consider as well. In my estimation, the writers clearly knew enough about Judaism to know these things because they mention the aversion Jews have to magic within the Gospels. Yet in many ways they did not care because the target audience was no longer the Jews. We must remember the Gospels were written up to 2 centuries after Jesus' death. Although they were adamant to show Jesus' lineage to the Jews, the early Christians all but forsook the Jews by the time the Gospels were written down in the form that we have them now. If you read the Gospels, there is also quite an anger towards the Jews. So in that respect, the Gospels betray their true date of composition just based on their overt anti-Jewish rhetoric. Just food for thought. If we read in the Gospels, we find Jesus performing magic, predominantly magic involving protection, healing, exorcism, raising of the dead, and the controlling of the tempests. These kinds of magical rites were not common to Judaism proper. Jesus was Jewish after all. The magic was, in fact, imported from nearby civilizations such as the Hittites, Ugarit, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and of course Greco-Roman influences. Some were introduced because of the various times the Jews were in exile, and others via various battles that took place. We should not be surprised by this considering the fact that Judea was always in the middle of great battles that took place between the great forces of the era. For example, when Ramses II waged war against the king of the Hittites, Muwatalli II, at the Battle of Kadesh, they needed to traverse most of Judea. Judea was always smack center of all the action, so it is completely understandable that various systems of magic would be introduced via these routes as well. Unlike the magic from Egypt and the other nations, the magic Judaism imported did not become the official practice, but got hidden in the shadow of folk religion. Magic was surely practiced by the average citizenry of ancient Judea. For example, amulets against the evil eye and against Lilith, the baby snatcher. In the Bible, these amulets are forbidden. In many ways, the Torah, or the first 5 books of the Old Testament, is a text of a religious reform movement against magic. Clearly, magic was practiced widely in the early days because the Old Testament makes so many references to it. I attempted to count how many occurrences there were in the Bible for magic in its various forms, and I found hundreds of them. I stopped counting after 200. We would be here all day if I itemized every time the Israelites worshipped other gods or performed magic. And to be clear, when the other nations served their gods, it was inherently a magical affair. So when you read in the Bible that Israel served other gods, it really means that they were performing magic. Not that the Bible itself isn't full of acceptable magic, but those passages are clear in their implications. In Hebrew, there are 8 words that have been used in the Old Testament that are related to magic. Yidoni, which is contacting spirits. Shoel Ov, which is necromancy and making contact with the dead. Doresh el Hametim, one who asks the dead, similar to the above. Kosem Ksamim, which is fortune-telling, although Joseph did it all the time. Monen, predicting the future by reading signs in nature. Menachesh, which root word comes from the word nachash, which means snake, so perhaps snake charming or just general enchantment. Chover chavar, casting spells by knot tying, which is still done today. And mechashef, evil sorcery or witchcraft, mainly for ill purposes. In the New Testament Greek, there are at least 5 words that I could find that are related to magic. I'm sure there are more. They are pharmakeia. Although the proper definition of this word is to administer medicine, it has been used to define words such as sorcery, magic, enchantment, idolatry, and witchcraft. Please reference Galatians 5:20 and Revelations 18:23. Magiuyo, which means to practice magic, please reference Acts 8:9. The word is related to the word magoi, which is used to identify the magi as I stated in a previous chapter. Magos. This usually means magician, sorcerer, wizard, or astrologer. Please reference Matthew 2:1, Matthew 2:7, Matthew 2:16, Acts 13:6, and Acts 13:8. The word is also related to magoi. Idololatria. This can mean idolatry and witchcraft. Please reference Galatians 5:20, Colossians 3:5, Puthon. This means a diviner or one who uses divination. Please reference Acts 16:16. As I stated earlier, prior to and during Jesus' time, there was a messianic ethos. On every corner there were false messiahs, prophets, healers, exorcists, and those who conjured angels and demons. Jesus himself performed many of these same things. We will examine Jesus as a magician in the next chapter. There you have it, my friends, chapter 4 of the latest book, Jesus Magick. If you would like a copy, please go to baalkadmon.com/Jesus, or just go to amazon.com and type in Jesus Magick. The rituals in the book are very powerful. I hope you enjoy it. See you soon. So mote it be.